And I'm Melinda Lemons. Our topic is lowering the drinking age, and we're now open for discussion.
So we got to start out, is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Bad idea.
Bad idea?
Yeah.
Bad idea?
It's a bad idea.
Okay, I just wanted to establish a baseline. Okay. All right, good deal.
Is this something that's being considered nationwide? How far along are they in that discussion?
So some people are thinking about lowering it back down to 18, mainly because you can vote at 18. You can go to the military at 18. So like, they're like, why not just give them that opportunity as well? But if they're mature enough to do that, they should be mature enough to drink. And I don't agree with that idea, because I mean, they haven't even gotten in college yet or started a job yet or anything. So.
So you mentioned a little bit of the history. Tell me the history of the drinking age in the United States. Currently it's 21.
Yeah.
What's ebbed and flowed through the years? Has there always been an age limit?
Well, when they lowered the drinking age, it raised in like car accidents and stuff, so they rose it back up to 21.
So it was 21, they lowered it and they raised it back?
Yes.
Is that at a state level or a federal
That
level?
was national. They had it back down to 18 after Prohibition, I think, and then
This was in 1976.
yeah, and then the Mothers Against Drunk Driving raised it back up because they were like, we want our kids to be safe, because the leader of it, her daughter died because a drunk driver ran her kid over while she was walking on the sidewalk.
So it went back up at 18 in 1976, or that was when they lowered it?
That was when they raised it back up to 21.
So internationally, I know that the drinking age is a lot lower and different. What did you all learn about the different drinking ages, and do they also experience negative impacts of a lowered, or is it positive?
So worldwide, usually it's around 18. Usually in Europe it's around 18, and they're actually worse than we are. So I would that's a prime example of why we should lower it down to 18. Now, in Africa, their countries range from no drinking age to being it totally prohibited, no matter what age you are. In some countries around India, they only prohibit to Muslims. Australia, it's 18, and they're not having a great time with that either. New Zealand was a prime example of what the drinking age can do, because in the past years they just now lowered it to 18, and DUIs and everything is raised exponentially. So.
Were there any benefits that you found for having the drinking age at 18? It seems like most of them have been negatives. There was no research, or?
Okay.
If you polled an audience of your peers, maybe the ones in this room, do you think the majority of them would agree with you on not lowering the drinking age, or do you think there would be a groundswell for bringing it back down to 18?
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah, I would hope most of them agree with that. So
I think they would agree with
Okay.
Point at the ones that you think.
Coach will be taking names.
Is there any medical reason for not wanting to lower them, as far as developmental reasons or anything like that?
Yes, definitely, because in your teen stages of life, that is when your brain development is going on the most. So the alcohol effects start with injury, and it not only affects your brain, but it affects all parts of your body, like your blood cells, and your liver, and your heart, and your pancreas, and your stomach.
to add more to that, wait, sorry, can you say the question again? Because I had something
The
else.
medical reasons for not lowering. Does it have developmental impacts, or?
Oh, you also, when you start younger, you also become more alcohol dependent when you start at a younger age.
It also has teens are from like the ages of 16 to 24, studies have shown that they're more likely to be involved in crime. They're more susceptible to other people with like rape and stuff like that.
So you spoke to the biological effects of alcohol, especially for developing teens. And I think, Melinda, was it you that mentioned Mothers Against Drunk Driving earlier? So we talked about, okay, there's some level of support to 18's the number. Let's bring it down to 18 because you can vote and you're already driving and you can join the military, you can do all these things. What would you ladies see as a reason, as far as driving is concerned, to not bringing it down closer to the age when you start driving? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Can you rephrase that?
Okay. So you can't drink until you're 21.
Right.
You can drive when you're 16.
Right.
Is there a benefit to having those two ages pretty far apart when those two things come into correlation?
I would say so, because then you have the experience of driving while you're not under influence or anything. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to drive under the influence anyway, but like, you have more experience, so I would say that would be
Ladies agree?
Yes.
One less factor to throw into the already chaotic learning the rules of the road.
Right.
And it seems like when we see alcohol in the news most often, it usually is in regards to traffic accidents, is that
Yeah.
correct? So
Yeah.
certainly would increase the mortality rate, I would think, amongst younger drivers.
So without regards to your own personal viewpoints on whether to do it or whether not to do it, you've acknowledged that there is some push underway in certain locales to lower the drinking. So what would the pro arguments be for taking that position? If you can envision the other side of the equation, what's their rationale? Why should the drinking age potentially be lowered from 21?
Like, for example, if I have some kind of problem like depression or anxiety, I want to find some way to deal with that.
That would be an argument that people would make
Yes,
too.
I believe so. And also, drinking is said to be a way to socially fit in,
Hmm.
because you go to parties and stuff, so you can have more friends.
There's an argument where it says like, if you lower it to 18, it'll increase business because with more legal drinkers, there's a greater amount of tax revenue and it will be collected by the government. So,
Thought about that, yeah.
yeah.
I've heard it said that if you lower the drinking age, it might be less enticing because it's no longer illegal or it's no longer against the rules. Did you read anything about that, or just in your own opinion, do you think that that's true or could be true?
In my opinion, I don't think that would be true, because, I mean, then you could apply that to any situation. Like, it's less enticing if you let a 5-year-old drive on the road, like, I mean, no, I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think that makes sense.
I think one of the things that you all mentioned is the fact that it's more dangerous for a young drinker to start drinking, and one of the reasons why that they've shown that is because of binge drinking. What is defined as binge drinking?
Binge drinking is defined as drinking 5 or more drinks in one sitting, which means at one time. So it's drinking a bunch of drinks all in one time without ceasing.
And is it the same for males and females?
Yeah.
Yes.
Binge drinking is just more common among teenagers as well, because alcohol affects us just a little bit differently. It mainly impairs our judgment. I mean, it impairs our emotions a little bit, but not as much as our judgment. So we tend to binge drink more, thinking we're okay, than we're not. But so yeah.
If the drinking age was lowered to 18, would there be certain regulations that would be put in place for certain young drinkers, or would it just kind of be since you're 18 now, it's kind of free-for-all like it is at 21, or is there gonna be, did you do any research on, is there like a probationary period between 18 and 21? Anything that you found on certain regulations for young drinkers?
I didn't find
I
it.
didn't see anything.
They were just putting that idea out there that it could be 18. I don't think it's gone that deep. I don't know yet if it's gone that deep, so.
Do you have any information on why it was set at that level? Because, you know, we do have different ages for, okay, 16 you drive, 18 you're legally an adult, you can vote, 21 you can drink. Do you have any information as to why it was decided like that?
It has to do with your blood and alcohol concentration and how much alcohol that your body can take.
So medically, it was determined at some point that 21 was a more reasonable point because of the blood concentration of alcohol. Okay. That's interesting.
Do you think that lowering the drinking age would increase the use of other substances, would increase, I guess, this age range, their use of other controlled substances?
Yes, studies have shown that with alcohol use you become dependent on other substances since you develop what's called dopamine, which is a sense of pleasure, so you're more likely to use drugs such as marijuana, is I think the most common drug that we use with alcohol.
Go ahead. You guys mentioned that you didn't want to lower the drinking age to 18. Would you, because of that, would you consider that things like voting or going into the military, would those need to be changed, since those are things that we consider adult activities? But we let people, I mean, military, you can be killed in action for wherever you are doing things. So would those be changed as well, or what are your thoughts on that?
Military, so I read this, the reason why you can go into the military at 18 is because military shapes you as a person. It's not just you're going into the military, they shape you and grow you. So I don't think the military age should be changed, because I can feel like that could be a great option for kids that do need to be shaped and changed.
I would agree with her.
I would agree with her.
I like the age of 18, that sounds really good. Why don't we move driving to 18 then? That way they're more developmentally ready, right? We've dealt with a lot of those social things we talked about. Is that good? Are we good with that? Do we slide that up to 18? It's only 2 years. What difference does 2 years make? No? Why not?
Their moms would be against it.
That's true. It'd be hard to get to practice, right? It'd be a little different.
I feel like since you're 18, you become an adult, you need that skill of driving, so that's probably why it's 16.
A lot in the news recently about, we were talking about controlled substances, Mrs. Vance was mentioning that. A lot of states are kind of going out on their own and setting limits on what you can and can't have, and medical marijuana, I think, is what started it. Now it's recreational marijuana, and I think Canada just passed that it's legal up to a certain quantity. Colorado, I know Washington, I know some other states, maybe, I want to say Maine or Vermont, somewhere up in the Northeast, have said, okay, well, that's fine here up to this limit, and they've kind of set their own, and a lot of that argument is based on tax dollars, and we're going to raise all this revenue, and it's going to be this boom of money for our economy, especially for struggling states. Do you guys feel like states could do the same thing with alcohol? Do you feel like they could enact their own rules and laws based on the alcohol consumption by minors within their state and say, you know what, Kentucky, we're really in a hard budget place. Let's let 18-year-olds drink, and that'll be just in Kentucky, but it's fine. We can do that and set that. Are they able to do that now? Do you think that that's something that is coming down the road?
I mean, it could be something, because that's like what people are arguing for who want the drinking age to be lowered. Because like what you said, the tax revenue would be like collected and stuff, so.
I don't know, I think it might go against national law, I think, because I think it's a national law 21. I don't know. I think it's a national law that is 21, but I would totally agree with her. If it gets any farther than this, they might not make it a national law anymore. It'd be totally up to the state.
So the state couldn't do it because it's a nationally imposed law. I would argue that marijuana is as well, actually.
It's just
So
not
yet-
nationally enforced.
Right.
Yeah.
I give all my answers.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. That's a different panel, isn't it?
That's true, that's true. We'll say that one for
We'll do that
I
one
think
next
that they
semester.
could change the drinking age from 21 to 18 nationally. In Kentucky, do you think it would be more problematic than other states? And if so, why? Or why not?
I have no clue, to be honest. I mean, I didn't personally research other states and how bad it is in other states, but I don't know. Moonshine's big around this area, so I don't know. Like,
Well, just knowing what's here from an adult's perspective,
Mhm.
especially a couple of these people that are from out of state. I know just growing up in northern Kentucky and then coming to the central Kentucky area, the advertisement for the bourbon industry is far greater here in central Kentucky than it is in northern Kentucky. So I could see this being a problem area for sure.
Right,
If
yeah.
they lowered the drinking age, I think it would have a bigger impact. But maybe that's just us as adults. For you all, as teenagers, do you all feel the same push for all the bourbon influenced advertising and social media advertising and that?
Yeah, because whenever you watch the Super Bowl, like a ton of commercials are advertising alcohol, and they know there's young viewers, so I would agree with that.
I like that line of questioning, Coach. So let's take what you do know about the state of Kentucky and about Central Kentucky in particular. If the drinking age was lowered, whether it was just in Kentucky or nationally, and what we've talked about, some of the problems with drinking and what that does in younger kids, what would be unique to Kentucky or Kentucky and the surrounding states, at least to the east of us, that might play a part in the negative impact of drinking at that younger age? What is it about the geography of Kentucky that you know?
think about it. I don't know.
Let's say east of I-75. Let's go out that way.
So, can you restate that in a way that I
Okay.
can?
What is it about Kentucky versus like metropolitan New York, we'll say?
Right.
What is it about Kentucky, especially eastern Kentucky, that may present extra challenges, that may make lowering a drinking age an extra large impact negatively, especially on younger people who are just got the ability to do something when they turn 16?
I don't know geography.
Okay.
I don't know if just.
We'll compare Eastern Kentucky with New York City.
Yeah.
Sorry, you do that better than I did. Yep.
How are they different?
Well, I mean, obviously it's not as, we don't have as much of the populations, stuff like that. I mean, I can see it being more in New York because of peer pressure and stuff, because that's like the social capital kind of area where you can, all the main, Nike and all that stuff is like, so I can see it being a problem up there with like peer pressure, but here I can see it being a problem because of, you can go and hide and do it, like, it's easier to go find a place to hide and do it, I guess, like.
Let's ask it this way. What size street do you live on? Is it a two-way street or is it a one-lane road?
Two-way street, I live in a suburb.
I mean, most of y'all probably drive 2-lane
Yeah.
roads or 4-lane roads, Douglasville Road, 6 lanes wide, whatever. You go to eastern Kentucky, you're driving some roads, a lot of roads, rural Kentucky, 1-lane road, and it may be looking over a mountain,
Right.
Semi-paved.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
loose gravel to edges, so if you're off of it, you're really getting off of it.
Yeah.
So it could really have a major impact, I think,